Madam, good evening, ma'am. Hello, madam.
Good evening, sir.
Ma'am, my name is Somsekhar Osmani, madam. Hello, madam. Hello. Madam, good evening, madam.
Yes, sir. बोलिए.
Ma'am, October 15th, I was attend the workshop, ma'am. But that last moment, my mobile was switched off, so I didn't get certificate, madam.
Okay. At the end of this, when we discuss certificates, we'll address your query, sir. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello and welcome, everyone. We are starting our workshop lesson planning cycle, building lessons that drive learning. As we proceed with our pre-workshop presentation, we request you to please share and chat one word that captures what you want students to feel in your lessons. All right. Right now, we are live on YouTube as well as this workshop is being conducted across the Zoom. So if you have more people who are interested, feel free to share the link with them. This is the mute mic button. You can click on the mic button to unmute and share your views. You can use this feature only when the speaker requests you to do so. This is the video button. You can click on the video button to switch on the video. Keep the video off in case of bandwidth issues, but otherwise we request you to keep your videos on. This is the chat button. You can click on the chat button to send messages to everyone, answer questions, answer polls. Polls will appear on your screen, but answer questions by the speaker and participate in the workshop. As we proceed, there's more than 150 of us in this workshop. So we have a few norms that we request you to follow over the next 2 days. The first is we request you to keep your cameras on for effective interaction. It is just great for our speaker to be able to see you, to be able to interact with you. To avoid any disturbance, we request you to please keep your mic off unless the speakers ask you to unmute. You can use chat window to ask a question or raise a hand to say something. We request you to participate enthusiastically throughout this session. And like we always say, the biggest lie we tell ourselves is that I'm going to remember this. So it would be great if you sit with your notebook and pen and capture all your learnings with note taking. And lastly, we request you to keep this space safe. Everyone here has come to learn, and all kinds of questions are welcome. I am incredibly happy to start this workshop now with our speaker, Vidya Rajaram. Vidya brings over 13 years of experience across teaching, teacher training, curriculum design, and educational leadership. Having worn many hats in the education space, she blends precision of planning with the heart of classroom practice. The aim of the workshop is to turn ideas into actionable, classroom-ready strategies that empower teachers to teach with clarity and confidence. It is a great honor to have also known Vidya over the last few years. Over to you, Vidya. Happy learning.
Thank you, Mansi. I'm going to skip the introduction bit because Mansi's done most of it. Instead, we'll jump straight into what we're going to be learning today. Give me a second so I can share my screen. Can someone confirm if they're able to share, look at my screen?
Vidya, we can't see the presentation mode. We can see your slides on the left.
Okay. Is it okay now?
No, now it is correct.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. Very excited to be interacting with several of you. Quite nervous about such a huge crowd. Even though you've done it several times, sometimes you just feel very nervous. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to. I saw a lot of words that you guys had put down in the chat box. I noticed engagement come up a lot. I saw curious. And I'm hoping that this lesson planning session will address all the words that you asked for. So without further ado, lesson planning. Today we're going to look at the 5-step method, right? And this is just one way of lesson planning. The heart behind this is you enter a classroom only with a plan, right? And the textbook and the content in the textbook is very different from a lesson plan. I think that's the first and foremost thing that all of us need to know as teachers, right? There is content, but the same content can be taught in a very lecture way, or you can plan an activity or some kind of game around the topic, and teach the same topic in a way that will engage all your children, right? And there are several methods to do that. The 5-step method is one method. There are several other models also. There's the 5E method of learning, which is an inquiry-based method. There's a flip method where you assess the children first and, find out what they already know about the lesson. Today, we'll look at one particular method that has worked really well in the past for me and for several people at who are currently working at Firki. So I'll start off by asking you a very basic question. Why do we need a lesson plan? Right? The question is, why do we need a lesson plan? And you can share your answers on the chat box. Okay? I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Why do we need a lesson plan? It's the heart of pedagogy, time management in the classroom. How structure, teaching and guidance, active development, sessions, got it. Super. So a combination of all of this, I think you guys have put it in a way that you put it in a way that was better than the response I had in my head. There's this saying which goes, if you don't have a plan for your children will have a plan for you. And this, I think I've experienced firsthand on days when I went into my classroom without preparing. The children were restless. There was a lot of mismanagement, behavioral issues. And one thing I've realized about children is we need to keep giving them something to do, to learn, or to experience, right? Or if they're not engaged, they will go a little crazy, especially younger children, right? So what we'll do right now is I'll summarize the why of the lesson plan. There might be 10 more whys, but to me, this is what stands out, right? You want to complete your syllabus. You want to ensure that your children are engaged during the 40 or 45 minutes of the lesson. And you don't want to make it boring. You want to get your children to become curious and engaged, right? So having a lesson plan is the first step towards doing that. So what we'll do right now is I want you to take out your note-taking device and, okay, 1 second. One second. My PPT is not working. Sorry. Um, Okay. What you can do is make a list of, sorry about that, guys. This was very unexpected. Make a list of everything that you do before the lesson as you prepare to teach your children. All right. Tomorrow, you need to teach your children a particular topic. Make a list of everything that you do before the lesson as you prepare to teach your students. You can make a list of it and enter it in the chat box as well. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, I don't know why every time I go to the chat box and come back, my PPT seems to get hung. All right. So these are some of the things that usually teachers sort of put down or create right before they enter their classroom. They read the textbook, they identify topics to teach, they make practice questions, like somebody said over here, practice worksheets, finding pictures, video, or other media sources to make the worksheets. Planning activities and experiments, checking student notebooks to see what they've learned previously, and making a note of time that each part of the lesson will take to complete, right? What we're going to do today is put some structure to this, okay? So we'll start with a very simple question. How did we all learn to ride a bicycle? Okay. We probably in our head are just thinking, one day I took my bicycle, I sat, somebody supported me from the behind, and then they let go all of a sudden, and I just started riding, right? At least that's how it happened with me. But if you think very deeply about it, there are steps involved when you learn to ride a bicycle. So anyone who wants to share that in the chat box, start off by sharing that. I'll repeat the question. When we learned to ride the bicycle, what were the steps involved? Mansi or Inika, if one of you could read out the responses coming from the chat box.
Yes. So there is like first riding with the side wheels through trial and error, through practice, learning about it and then putting it into practice, practicing with the support of others, observing others. Yeah, similar responses. Yes.
Great. All right. So when we think about the whole process of riding a cycle, right? I'm thinking one day a parent just woke up and decided what to teach. I'm going to teach my child to ride a cycle. right? And after that, the parent makes the child believe very deeply in the purpose. And by giving them things like, if you learn to ride a cycle, you can actually go to the shop and buy milk and come. You can buy grocery for the house. Um, so that the child believes very deeply as to why they need to be learning riding a bicycle. All right. And then the child watches an adult demonstrate, right? The parent probably takes the child behind or rides a cycle and shows them how it is done, and the child just watches. And then the child actually rides with guidance. Now, all of these might have happened at a very uh, at a level where you might not have realized. Gradually, this might have been built up. The whole parent deciding to teach the child what to ride a bicycle, and then making the child believe deeply in the purpose. All of it could have happened organically, right? Yes, Ashraf, Unisa. Ashraf. Okay, I'm going to continue. Inika, in case you see anything in the chat box, let me know. I think they've raised their hand by mistake. And then the child actually rides along with guidance. Someone's holding the child behind, or like someone rightly mentioned over here, there's balancing wheels, right? And finally, the child actually rides independently, right?
Ma'am, can I?
Without the parent around. So the parent decides what to teach. The child believes deeply in the purpose. Child watches as the parent demonstrates. Child rides with guidance. And then finally, the child rides independently without the parent around. So now when you think about lesson planning, it's very similar to this process. The teacher needs to first think about what do my students need to learn, right? And that's the objective. The teacher needs to frame the objective, thinking about what the child needs to learn. Next one is the teacher needs to create an opening, and the opening needs to help the students understand the purpose of the learning. The third thing is the teacher tells them how, right? Just like the parent showed them how to ride a bicycle, the teacher actually tells them the how. And that is something we call INM, Introduction to New Material. We call it INM. And then there's a group or a guided practice where the children either sit in groups or sit individually with their worksheets. And the teacher goes around and guides them. If they make a mistake, the teacher doesn't hesitate to correct them and say, hey, do you want to check this again? I think there's a different answer. And revisits the how steps if necessary. And finally, there's IP, which is independent practice, which is an assessment that the students do independently. All right. So this is the structure of a lesson plan. And if you look at your template, the lesson plan template, it will have these columns, these headings. Okay. So over the next 2 days, the goal is to say we create a lesson plan for any topic, any objective. You will decide the objective, you will decide the material of the lesson. Okay. But when we walk out of this session 2 days later, I'm hoping that we all have a very strong lesson plan in hand, right? And we use that as the basis for whatever we teach in future. Okay. Today, we will look at creating an objective, how to create an objective. Like if I have to frame an objective, what will that look like? Creating an opening, an opening that will create a spark that will get the children thinking about why they are learning it. And we'll learn to create an assessment. Okay. We create an assessment even before we put in the lesson plan material. I'll talk about the why when we reach the assessment bit. Okay. So today we're going to create 3 things. We're going to create an objective. We're going to create an effective opening, and we're going to create an assessment. All right. Tomorrow, we will create the INM, the Introduction to New Material. We'll create a guided practice. And finally, a relevant closing or homework practice for the objective, aligned to the objective. Okay. We're going to look at 3 things today: objective, opening, and assessment. Tomorrow, we'll look at drafting the Introduction to New Material, the guided practice, and a relevant closing or homework for the objective. All right. Thumbs up if that was clear so far. You can give me thumbs up over here as a reaction or in the chat box, anything will do. I can't see who's giving thumbs up, so
Yes, we have
hoping.
like quite a few, Vidya, like
Got it.
quite everyone seems to have
Great.
understood.
All right. So now the first thing we're going to be learning how to create an objective. Okay. The objective, like I said, is what you want to achieve by the end of the lesson, right? And very clearly defining that. So when we open our textbooks, right, there are several topics. For example, there's water cycle, there's photosynthesis, several topics. But under photosynthesis, you can create at least 2 or 3 objectives. Okay. So thinking about what exactly do I want to achieve by the end of the lesson. Example, for photosynthesis, are we saying I want my children to explain the process of photosynthesis? Or are we saying that children need to understand the definition of each term in photosynthesis, chlorophyll, water, all of that? So under photosynthesis, there might be several subtopics. Like for water cycle, there might be subtopics to say, are they going to be able to explain the process of water cycle? Or are they going to be able to define terms like evaporation, precipitation, condensation, and all of that, right? So for that, we need to be very, very clear. We cannot go into class saying, today my children will learn water cycle, because your objective needs to say what we can assess them on. When you say learn, they've learned water cycle, are you telling me if I were to give them an assessment, can I ask them to define condensation, define evaporation, or can they not do that? They can just explain the process, right? So your objective format needs to be, students will be able to, you insert a skill and then the knowledge. The knowledge part is what you already know, the water cycle bit or anything, equilateral triangles, anything, right? The skill bit is something that you'll have to decide what, all right? This is an example. Students will be able to construct an equilateral triangle, right? The knowledge over here is equilateral triangles. We'll find this directly in our textbooks. But the skill over here is something that we pick from something called Bloom's taxonomy, which I'll introduce you to now in case you haven't already been introduced to it. The skill over here is to construct, right? This can also be, students will be able to identify equilateral triangles. But the objective over here is they'll be able to construct an equilateral triangle. Okay. If we say identify, I wouldn't expect the child to be able to draw an equilateral triangle. If I show the child 5 different types of triangles, an isosceles triangle, equilateral triangle, if I show them 3 or 4 different types of triangles, they need to be able to point out what the equilateral triangle is. That is identifying an equilateral triangle. Whereas over here, the skill is constructing one, which means I expect them to draw an equilateral triangle. All right. Similarly, students will be able to describe photosynthesis, which means they'll be able to explain the process of photosynthesis. All right. Photosynthesis is the knowledge. The skill is describing it. All right. Don't worry if this is a little vague to you right now, we'll get there. Okay. Now, this is Bloom's taxonomy. Your skill needs to be picked out from this chart. All right. So Bloom's has 6 stages. The first one is remembering, then understanding, then applying, analyzing, evaluating, finally creating. Okay. Creating is the highest order skill, right? And there is no creating is better than applying. Remembering is not as good as creating. We need to get to a place where we know our children need to go through each of these stages. All right. For some of the topics, remembering might apply more than creating to, memorize something. While in some others, creating might make a lot more sense, right? Like if you take even the topic equilateral triangles, remembering requires them to remember that an equilateral triangle has equal sides. All 3 sides are equal. However, if they have to create it, they need to construct something, right? So that's the difference between remembering is the lowest order skill because it requires a very low order skill where you're listening and you're memorizing, right? And so on and so forth. Understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Creating is the highest order skill. Now let's look at the first objective for the day. The first objective for today is creating an objective, right? Pick the knowledge. If you have your, I hope you have your textbooks next to you. Pick the knowledge. You need to then choose a skill. And the skill needs to be from this Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. You can choose to pick a remembering skill, or if your topic allows for it, maybe some analyzing skill, creating, anything is fine. Okay. So pick the knowledge, choose a skill, write it in the format. Students will be able to describe or define or create the whatever knowledge you've decided. All right. And one very important thing is ensure that your children understand every term in the objective. Every single word in the objective, they need to understand. Your objective needs to be very clearly written on the board before you start, and tell them that this is what we will be able to do at the end of this lesson. Okay. So this is how we frame an objective. Give me a thumbs up if that's clear, or if you want me to repeat it again.
Yeah, there are thumbs up coming through, Vidya.
Okay. If there's like one or two, explain again also, I can explain it again.
Yeah, there wasn't a question as such, but there was just if we could give some examples of like humanities-based subjects as well.
Sure. We can.
There's also 2-3 people saying, can you share Bloom's taxonomy again?
Yes, I've shared that in the chat. I'll share it again.
So this one, the person who asked about humanities, I'm guessing you probably are teaching English or social science. So in English, let's say you're teaching them adjectives, or if it's even a higher level topic, I'm not sure what grade you're teaching. But can they sort of memorize the rules of what a word needs to, follow if it has to qualify as an adjective? And can they compare an adjective with an adverb to deepen their understanding? Right. And these are things that come in the first lower order skills itself, where they memorize the rules, and then comparing is there under understanding. Yeah. And I think creating the creating stage for a topic like an adjective would be create an essay that has at least 4 adjectives in it. Ensure that every character has an adjective attached to them that will describe their quality. So yeah, does that help? Okay, I'm going to assume they said yes.
Vidya, there's also a question about
Yeah.
how is a goal and objective different from each other?
I struggled with that question myself. Anybody else who wants to answer that? So goal is an
Can I, ma'am?
yes, please.
My name is Chaya. I'm from Brahmana Vidyalaya.
Hi.
What
Alright.
I thought goal is maybe one, and objectives can be many.
Yeah, something very similar. Thank you so much, Chaya. So I was thinking a
Also,
goal.
ma'am, adding on, I feel goal is long term and objective is short term, which can be achieved within that specific time of class interval.
Correct. Yes. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Okay, so overall, if you put it in those terms, the lesson plan that we are creating right now generally won't have a goal. A goal is something that you create at the start of the month, where you say at the end of the month, I want to finish these 2 topics or these 7 topics, right? That's your goal. And your objective is specifically what you're going to do each day. At least that's my understanding. So yeah, right now, let's take 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes should be enough. And create an objective for any lesson that you're going to be teaching, or whenever you're going to class. Okay, you have 5 minutes. It's right now 5:56. So let's come back at 6:01. Use this time to create an effective objective. Use Bloom's taxonomy to pick your skill. Use your textbook to pick your knowledge. All right. Okay. Debashri, do you have a
Hi.
question? Yes. Hi.
Hi, Vidya.
Hi.
Thank you for the session, first of all. Yeah, actually, I'm a social science teacher,
Yeah.
but I'm not teaching anymore. But I'm just focusing on teacher coach perspective. So for now, I'm taking a max topic to teach. So I just wanted to make sure whether I'm choosing the right skill. Okay, so I'll just read out my objective and let me know whether other skill can be picked up for this knowledge piece. Student will be able to calculate the curved surface area and total surface area of a cylinder.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like a good
Yeah.
objective.
So this objective can compromise the application questions as well, right? Below
Correct.
this topic. Yeah. This
So,
skill is for, yeah.
yeah. So I'm thinking, see, them knowing how to calculate the surface area of a cylinder is great.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I would probably, in order to make the lesson, I'm guessing you're teaching sixth or seventh?
It's a 9th grade one.
Ninth grade, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, can the children, I mean, ninth grade children also can have fun in class.
Yeah.
So if we can make the lesson a little more interactive, where
Uh-huh.
you bring a bunch of items,
Yeah.
including, you know, a tube or a powder box or something like that,
Yeah.
and tell them to, you know, identify which of these are cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell them, okay, now my problem over here is I don't know the surface area of this. And unless I know the surface area, I won't know how much of powder I can put in this. So today, by the end of the lesson, we are thinking, let's find out how much powder this bottle can contain,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Or how much oil can this contain. And I'm thinking when you do that, you build curiosity because you're connecting it to something that they are using in their real life.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has an oil bottle or a powder dabba in their house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll build that curiosity. They'll be able to go home and actually demonstrate that. Instead of it being a formula on the board and in their notebooks, you've
Got it.
actually given them a topic to research into, right?
Yes, Vidya. So, while doing all these things inside the lesson, in the opening and the INM, but the objective can be just this, and is that
You
fine,
can, that's fine. Yeah, you can.
or should we break down the objectives like, okay, student will be able to understand or explain curved surface area, like the scaffolding should be needed?
So it's up to you, right? As long as
Okay.
you're able to cover it. The
Mhm.
advantage of framing it in an objective to say they need to be able to identify a cylinder, they need to be able to calculate the surface area means I'm not going to go in and just teach them a formula and come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am ensuring that they're able to, first of all, identify a cylinder.
Yeah.
And only then I'm going into surface area. Because if they can't identify a cylinder at all,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no point in teaching them surface area.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Mm.
So in, draw a cylinder and show me what is surface area. Can you mark the surface area? Leave calculating it. Can you actually construct a cylinder? Show me,
Yeah.
draw a cylinder. Tell me
Yeah.
which is the surface area. Is it the top part or this part or which one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that'll be a very useful pre-lesson
Mm-hmm.
before calculating surface area.
Sure.
Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just I'm having the idea of like how the lesson is going to unfold, but for the objective point of view, should I keep it just as a one like end objective? But the scaffolding will happen throughout the lesson, like it's starting from identifying and
Can do.
constructing the
Yes.
cylinder.
If you will remember that, you know,
Yeah.
identifying
Yeah.
and constructing all of this, I have to include, and I'm not going to just
Yeah.
teach them to
Okay.
calculate, then please go ahead and
Yeah.
put
Sure.
just one word. Otherwise, put down.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Vidya, participants have also started putting in the chat. So do let me know if you want me to read out some of them as well.
Ma'am, can I read my one lesson plan?
Vidya, you're on mute.
Yeah. No, I just unmuted. Aisha, I think if you've shared it on the chat box, that's enough. We won't have enough time for everybody to share. So maybe put it on the chat box and Nika will read it. Is
Yeah.
that okay, Nika?
Yes. I'll read as many as I can and then let me know. So students will be able to demonstrate the process of separating mixtures using filtration, evaporation, or chromatography. Students will be able to distinguish the colloidal solution and suspension. Students will be able to identify healthy and junk foods. Students will be able to create posters. Then students will be able to identify natural and man-made things in their surroundings. Students will be able to solve complex problems by finding the value of a single unit, identify parts of a plant, develop appreciation and understanding of music, enhance creativity and self-expression through singing and instruments, describe cell structures. Yeah, there
Okay.
are quite a few. There is also a question. Let me know if you want me to read that now or towards the end.
Please do.
Yeah. The question is Bloom's taxonomy the only approach to making a lesson plan?
No, so there's another taxonomy. I am not able to remember the name of it right now. Do you know? I'm just going to quickly. Okay. Bloom's taxonomy is not the only thing you need to refer to. Okay, so there's one solo taxonomy. Inika, maybe you can share the solo taxonomy thing with them. And that generally measures the complexity of learning outcomes. So that's also a great tool to use. There's Fink's taxonomy, Fink, Fink's taxonomy, which there's like broader goals. Someone asked questions about humanities and all that, no? So there are broader goals in a Fink's taxonomy. There's caring and integrating, art or something within your lesson. Then there's Webb's depth of knowledge, and there's one Marzano's taxonomy. I am not familiar with the last two that I spoke about, but these are also other reference points. All right. Okay. All right. So right now we've created an objective. We started off by looking at Bloom's chart, picked a skill and hopefully picked a knowledge. So right now we have a properly framed objective. Do we all have it? Thumbs up if you have it. I now have a very clear objective of what I need to teach in my class. Thumbs up if you have it. Are the thumbs ups coming in the chat box? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what we're going to do next is how do we create an effective opening? Okay. So the opening, to me, this is probably the most important part of the lesson because the opening needs to hook the children. And when I say hook, it needs to build so much curiosity that the child wants to actually learn that lesson, right? It could be a story to say, basically, if you're thinking about a Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, in a classroom, I remember when I did that with my fourth graders. I basically just shut all the windows and the doors in the room. Children were all laughing, and the room got dark. And the children then I introduced it saying this is how children and adults were there in that particular space before General Dyer ordered his his troops to start shooting. So imagine there was so much bloodshed within a room like this where they couldn't get out. For me, that actually hooked the children, and the children wanted to know why would that commander do something like that, and what did the people do. So your opening needs to be extremely strong. For a simple lesson like even subtraction. Until yesterday, you were probably going to a shop and your parent was giving you the exact change so that you could give that and buy the items from the shop. But today, you know what? Even if you buy, things for 350 rupees, you can give a 500 rupee note and you will know how much to take back in change. Because I'm going to teach you subtraction today. You're going to know that 500 minus 350 is 150. So it's going to be easy for you to go to the shop and you don't even have to carry extra the specific exact change. Things like this will hook the children. It needs to give them a very strong purpose of learning, right? So to say, how many of you have thought about how much water your family consumes in a day? Chances are that not many of them would have thought about it. So if you're doing a topic around water conservation, that'll be a great way to start off by saying, oh, so we are actually not even aware of, how much water we are consuming as a family. Let's find that out first. And then people come in with different responses, say 25 liters or 40 liters of water. And then let's ask them how many buckets of water do you use to have a bath. And if they say two, let's ask them, what will we do to ensure that, in one bucket we're able to finish it? And why is that important? For conservation of water. And why is conservation of water important? And then you build the lesson after that, right? So it needs to give them a very strong purpose of learning. It needs to connect to something that they do every day in life. And you need to include values as well, right? When we say, let's take the water conservation example, right? Once they are able to identify how much water they consume as a family, as a homework, one thing we can do is ask them to go and, talk to their neighbors and say, politely ask, how much water do you think you use in a day? And through that, we teach them values like respect. When you go inside a house, are you saying, may I come in? I just want 5 minutes of your time. And these are very basic values that the children need to learn. Our job is not only to teach them the subject. Our job is to also ensure that they're growing up as respectful individuals, right? So to tell them what is basic etiquette when you go inside, if they offer you water or something, politely say no, or if you're thirsty, like take it and say yes. There's no shame in drinking water from somebody's house. And then very respectfully frame your questions. Don't make them feel guilty that they're wasting water. They're probably unaware. And how do you educate them in a very respectful way? How can you show empathy when someone says, oh, I take at least 5 or 6 tubs of water? How are you able to not show the shock in your face? Instead, be empathetic and tell yourself, this person is just unaware. Put yourself in their place. And I feel like these can build values in our children. So some questions that you need to ask yourself before you create the opening for your lesson is, how will you get the students excited and hook them onto learning? How will you show them the relevance to themselves and their lives, right? Like for photosynthesis or a water cycle, whatever it is, to say that you have plants around your house. You'll need to water them. You have to give them sunshine. Otherwise, one day we're not going to have plants or trees around us at all, right? Or the importance of just preserving forests, because in the water cycle, they'll understand that only if they preserve, the trees are the ones that are helping us get rain. So why are we not getting any rainfall these days? Or why does it pour so much or flood our city? Trees. We've been chopping down trees. How can we build that awareness and show them the relevance to themselves, right? How will you reinforce any values or norms for the class? Through the lesson, how are you going to ensure that they're being polite with each other, they're being respectful of other people, right? So these are some questions that we need to ask ourselves before we make the opening. All right. So what we're going to do is now look at some ideas that you can use. We can start with a do now. Give them a quick activity to do. Give them a very quick activity that they can do. Say, quickly within 1 minute, I want you to put down how much water does each person in your family consume including their bathing, washing, brushing, all of that, and put that together, and how much as a family are you consuming? That can be their do now. That can be a great opening. Using a KWL chart, that's basically, Inika, if you could share a KWL chart template with them, that'll be great.
Yes, will do.
KWL is basically what I already know about this subject. I'm going to teach you equilateral triangles. What do I already know? W stands for what I want to know, and L stands for what I learned. Okay. K is what do I already know. So if I'm teaching, say, equilateral triangles, I'm going to put down, I already know what triangles are. They have 3 sides and it's a closed shape. That's what I know. What I want to know, the difference between an isosceles triangle and an equilateral triangle or an equal triangle. And the L column will be something that they fill up at the end of the lesson. Right? What did I learn over here? And the idea is to say, what did you want to learn in your W column? What did you put down? Did that happen? If not, then maybe come to me individually, right? So to start off with a KWL chart is also a beautiful way to begin a lesson. Starting with an activity like, I'm going to give you 2 plants. One is bright and fresh. One looks very dull. It looks dead. What do you think happened to this plant? What do you think happened to that plant? Just start with that activity. Let them observe and make a note of their observations. They'll need like 5 minutes, right? Take 2 plants, put them in the front of the class. Get them to just write down, what are you observing? Plant A, plant B, what are you observing, right? Tell them a story. For example, letters can be characters. So when you do, say, a phonics lesson with the children, for the English teachers over here, when you're doing a phonics, lesson, start off by, let's say we're explaining digraphs, P and H come together to make the sound F, right? So how you sort of make them characters to say, Mr. P went and knocked on Mr. H's door. And how does Mr. P knock? And Mr. H opens the door and asks, right? And then they decide to go for a walk. When P and H go for a walk, they make their own sounds individually, and they keep walking. And then suddenly Mr. F joins their walk and says, and Mr. F is a very arrogant person. An arrogant person is a person who likes to listen to their own voice. So when Mr. F joined, P and H got scared and they stopped making noises, and Mr. F's noise was the loudest. So when P and H come together, Mr. F makes the loudest noise. Telling them a story like that to, build that connection and say, this is why sounds, they're different. Starting with a spectrum activity. A spectrum activity is a great way to understand, your children's level of awareness, right? Take any topic, forest conservation. Anybody who thinks forest conservation is important, come to this side. Those who think it's not important because it doesn't affect my life, come to this side. Anybody who's not sure, I'm not sure if it's important, but I do want to know, I'm just confused, stand in the middle, right? A spectrum activity will build great awareness for our children also. Asking a very compelling question right at the start, to build that engagement and build that curiosity. To say, I took this paper, I soaked it in water, and I brought it out. It doesn't look the same. Why do you think that happened? Or I took a slice of bread, I put it in a box, I kept it closed for 10 days, I opened it, there's so much fungus over here, there's some green thing growing on it. Why do you think that's happening? To ask them a very compelling question. If you're going to do a chapter on microorganisms, fungi and all that. Start with a quiz to give them a quick recap, especially if the topic is connected to what they already learned. So yesterday we learned about evaporation. Today we're going to learn about condensation. Before we go into the whole topic of water cycle, who can quickly remind me what evaporation is and what do we need if evaporation needs to happen? Playing a quick game on the topic, true or false game or anything that they can do. If you're tech savvy people, you can give your children tabs and get them to play a quiz or something that you've created beforehand. So these are some ideas for openings. Now what we're going to do is you will take 5 minutes to create an effective opening. The most important thing is it has to align to the objective you created. right? If you've created an objective to, say, add two numbers, it needs to align to that objective. Think of a very strong opening that aligns to the objective. Your objective cannot be, my children will learn, water cycle, and your effective opening cannot be something about photosynthesis, right? It needs to hook the children. It can be a question, a big question, or a smart activity, but it needs to grip the children, hook them to the lesson, and get them very curious. It needs to give them a purpose for learning, right? If this is not done, then what are you going to do? We're creating that feeling in the children. And it needs to connect to something that they do every day in life, right? So think of such an opening, frame it. Okay. So think of such an opening. Use Google, use ChatGPT, use anything. These days, I know you can actually tell ChatGPT your objective and it will give you a great opening. So go ahead, do what you need to do. It's 6:18 right now. We'll come back maybe at 6:23-ish. Yeah.
Vidya, there is a question. So there's one question which is do now a recap of the previous class or a concept which for students or a hook, like the introduction of the concept?
So a do now can be anything. It's up to us to decide. It can be a recap where we're making sure that the children actually understood what we taught last class. So a do now can just be a quick recap of what we have taught. It can also be a big question that they've never explored before, but then they can answer in about 30 seconds, but it'll really get them curious. Like I said, how much of water do you think your family consumes? And then to keep that, and then do an entire lesson on water conservation, and then go back and revisit the do now to say, now let's go back and let's talk about whether it's okay, the amount of water that we are using. Is it okay? Is it normal to use that much, or is it excessive? Do we need to reduce? So it can be like that also. It can be a recap also. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah. I think, Vidya, there's also another question. Just before this, to everyone else, I'll echo that if there are no questions, do start working on the opening. But Vidya, there is an other question, which is that the objective part for one of our participants is not clear. So can she ask her doubt before she goes ahead with the opening?
Yeah.
Radhika, I think you can go ahead then.
Okay, good evening, ma'am. Actually, my topic was about in English, the topic is science fair. So
Yeah.
there are different experiments for grade 5. So what could be my objective? I have written the students will be able to understand the given experiment. So I feel this objective is not up to the mark.
Can you tell me a little bit about this science fair? It's an English lesson, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So is it a story about children going to a science fair or something like that?
No, it's not a story. It's just children performing the different fairs. I'll just tell you. So first, there are total 4 experiments where children have performed. Like first is I'm going to show you how this balloon sticks to the wall without glue. So it is some electricity experiment.
Right.
Then
Right.
another one is the bowl experiment, creating the musical sound with the glass bowls.
Got it.
So like this, there are 4.
Okay. Got it. So it is an English lesson, but it looks like there's a lot of science involved in it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think in the exam, what kind of questions do you anticipate from this lesson?
Maybe some vocabulary questions or grammar questions,
Okay.
as this is an activity in one of the chapter itself.
Right.
They have units, and in each unit they have 4 to 5 sub-units.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, from what you're telling me, I'm understanding that the lesson has science experiments, but the questions that are asked might largely be grammatical type questions, grammar or
So basically what it is, like children knows the activity, they have to present it in English.
got it. Okay, so then I would just deal with this the way any science teacher would deal with it, the whole experiment, the project bit. And I would sort of ensure that they have the required vocabulary to explain that experiment or to present that experiment. So it will be
Yes.
a combination, 70% of which I think is science, and about 30% is going to be English vocabulary, creating like grammatically correct sentences and all that. So I'd focus on both, and I wouldn't hesitate to put down scientific skills as well, to perform an experiment or to demonstrate a reaction. Yeah.
So my objective would be students will be able to students will be able to explain their experiments in English with correct vocabulary, maybe,
Sure.
but that
Yeah,
is a
that
broad
correct.
objective.
I was going to ask you that. How many days do you think you will take in order to complete this lesson?
Maybe 2 would be enough because it is a 2-page lesson.
So then I would frame two different objectives. One which is science related, and one which is very, aligned to an English objective. Um, so explaining the is explaining enough, or do they need to perform the experiment and show, demonstrate, or something like that?
If they perform, it would be great and interesting for them, I guess.
So then, that's your answer, right? If they can perform, then that's great. I would say students will be able to perform the experiment given in the textbook, whatever. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
No.
Vidya, there are a lot of openings coming in, and there's also one more question, which is, does this strategy work for secondary school teaching and for college teaching as well?
I'm not sure about college teaching, although I feel like if you're a teacher, you need to carry a lesson plan. That's your non-negotiable. In a college, in fact, I think college children will enjoy this a lot more than any of our children. So yeah, I think it's applicable across grades, across anything in education. Yeah.
Okay. Do let me know if you want me to read out some of the openings that have come in.
Sure. Any
Yeah.
one or two if you can just read
Yeah.
out.
There's one which is a mystery bag opening. So take a mystery bag. Inside this bag have
One
are
second.
clues
Sorry,
about something living that
one second.
grows. Yeah.
Sorry. Can you read the objective of this person first?
Oh, they've not shared the objective, Vidya. One objective that I do remember is the healthy food and junk food, and I can read that objective out. So the
Sure, sure.
objective for that was identifying healthy versus junk foods.
Yeah.
The opening for them, this is ask them what they've had for breakfast, and then follow up with that being whether that is a healthy food or a junk food.
Nice.
Yeah. Grade 4 maths, the objective is students will be able to apply multiplication to solve real life shopping problems. The opening is, if you buy 3 pencils costing 5 each, how much will you spend?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd make the opening a lot more, I'd build more curiosity, because this particular opening feels like a problem that they have to solve. So I'm just thinking, if they've already learned multiplication, it'll be nice to set up like a shop or something in the class where quickly you ask children to go around, pick 3 of one kind and say, how much do you need to pay this person, making one child sit as a shopkeeper. And customers can come and go. It'll be great to have an opening like that, because your objective is they need to apply it. What better way to apply than visiting a shop and exchanging money. So for an applying objective, I would think that setting up a little shops, stationery shop or vegetable shop, whatever, you can use toy vegetables also. That would be a more interesting opening. Otherwise, I just feel like at the beginning of the lesson, you tell them, if you have to do this, how many pencils can you buy, whatever that question is. It feels like a sum. So I'm coming inside and immediately taking my paper and solving. As a child, I don't know if that'll make them enthusiastic. Yeah. Okay, let's take 2 or 3 more minutes and then we'll move on to the next.
There is one more question, Vidya. Let me know if you want to take it now or do we want to take it towards the end?
Let's take it now.
Yeah, okay. The question is, please elaborate necessary guidelines that should be followed when following a lesson plan for grade 11, 12th students.
Okay. So when they say guidelines, I thought the template gave them guidelines, no?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
I'm
think
not
just maybe the
understanding.
clarifying question here would be, I think, my understanding is, would it be similar? Is it okay to follow the same for grade 11, 12 students as
I
well?
think so, yeah. Like I said right at the beginning, right? Even older children need curiosity. When you visit schools, no, I've noticed something that I've noticed is when I've walked into a kindergarten classroom, uh, they're just bursting with questions. They want to know why the sky is blue, why in India, cows go wherever they want, and how the roads are cleaner abroad. They're just bursting with questions. Why does the sun look yellow? Is it actually yellow in color? There are so many questions. And gradually, when you go up, walk into a 10th grade, 11th, 12th grade child's classroom, you notice there's dead silence. Like you have to get words out of them by asking them questions. You're the one asking questions and saying, do you really understand or do you want to do a sum? And this is just for the lesson, right? And I feel somewhere somewhere something went terribly wrong, in those middle school years we don't know when that creativity sort of got killed. But I just feel like if we can preserve that curiosity from kindergarten to 12th grade, it might seem impossible. But if we can just preserve that curiosity by giving children the space, I know we have, other things to do. There's portion completion and all of that. Um, but if we just give them that space to be creative, and it need not even be verbally, put up a chart in your classroom and say, ask whatever you want. And then you'll be amazed at the kind of questions that come in that chart. I just feel like there's no two ways about teaching a topic. You pick a topic, you follow the lesson plan, any lesson plan template that you have, right? It need not be Bloom's taxonomy, it not be 5 step. Do you need to have a plan that will keep the children engaged and curious from the start till the end, right? So I just think that it's applicable across grades. Okay. Any other opening that you want to read out to me before we move on, Anika?
I'll just have a look. Yeah, the objective here is understanding the concept of adjectives, opening what do we use to decorate our drawings. As we use colors to decorate our drawings, we use adjectives to decorate our sentences. So using that question. There are a lot of questions about sharing real life situations. The objectives aren't here, but some really nice real life situations for openings as well.
Okay, great. Also, the term understand, is a very vague term. I'm not sure if we'll find it in Bloom's or Solo or wherever, but I just feel like the minute we put the word understand in our objective, if you tell me that my children understand objectives, are we saying that they can identify adjectives? You give them a mixture of words, conjunctions, adverbs, adjectives. Will they be able to pick out the adjectives in that, which is identifying? Or are you saying they can use it in sentences, which means I give them a sentence saying, this is a chair, and they can insert an adjective over there. This is a strong chair, or this is a brown chair. So are we saying they can identify, or can they use an adjective? I think it'll be very useful to differentiate between these. And you'll understand why I'm saying this is very important in the next topic. But yeah, it'll be very useful to just specifically say what the child will be able to do. What skill did you teach them? I think that's more important than everything else. What is the skill that you taught them to do? They understood. Okay, great. How do I check if they've understood? Can I give them anything related to adjective? Can I give them an essay and say circle all the adjectives? Or can I give them, sentences and ask them to insert adjectives? I need to know. If I'm the one who's giving an assessment, I need to know that. So yeah, it'll be nice to start off with well, one thing that I've done again in my classroom is
Ma'am,
there was someone
I
called me.
wanted, yes, ma'am. I wanted to ask when I said understanding for the adjectives, I wanted to state that they understood the definition or the concept that what adjectives do we use for. So, what can I state the word then?
Define. They can define an adjective. They can use
Okay.
adjectives also.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think one activity that I did in my classroom was all the objects inside the classroom, right? Windows, doors, tube light, benches, books, whatever it was. We labeled all of them. My children were struggling with basic spellings, right? I taught third grade and fourth grade for the same set of children. So books, chair, bench, all of this, they learned nouns before everything else. So then I said, there are several nouns around us. Let's label all of them. So each of them brought like a label, a small piece of chart where they wrote tube light and stuck it, right? And when I taught them adjectives, I said, if we had to add an adjective to this noun, what would it be, right? And they came up with all kinds of adjectives: yellow chair, purple bench, bright tube light. But at the end of the day, what was very clear is they knew that adjective is something that describes a noun. It tells you a little more about that noun. It's a tube light. Okay, but what kind of tube light? It's a bright tube light. Okay, what color is it? It's white. So yeah, I think getting very creative about how you want to teach a topic will go a really long way in getting your children hooked to the topic. All right. So we started off by looking at Bloom's taxonomy. We used it to pick the skill and the knowledge from our textbook. We created a great objective. We then created an effective opening towards that objective, right? So now we are going to look at creating an assessment, okay? And I'll tell you why. For any of you who are thinking, without even constructing my lesson, how do I go to assessment? The assessment is the last part of the lesson. You need to do it only after the lesson. But I'm saying, let's construct this right after the opening. Can anyone guess why I'm doing this? Why do we need to first create an assessment before we even dive into the lesson?
Ma'am, may I try?
Yeah, please do.
Because while teaching, where we need to focus more, as we have described so many things in the assignment, students should get the ideas of the related answer from our lecture only, so that.
Yes. So when you, I'll take one more response. Thank you so much, Rumana from Akanksha.
Yeah. So when we know what is the assessment, it is like, we also get clarity then for the planning of the lesson. If we know the outcome, that this is what my students need to excel in, that is the reason it is very important to do the backward planning. First the assessment and then the planning, how to reach there.
Correct. Thank you so much for sharing. Backward planning is the word I was looking for. And if you don't mind, Rumana, can you tell me, if I don't backward plan, I first construct my lesson and then I create my assessment. What is wrong about that?
And then sometimes, when I construct a lesson plan and then the backwards assessment, like there's a misalignment in the skill I want to achieve and then what I want to teach. Because there's so much, when we plan a lesson, there's so much you want to teach sometimes. But you are very clear. We get clarity in direction. When we are clear that this is assessment, then my planning will reach there only. So
Exactly.
that is the reason as a teacher we should be aware what is the outcome we are looking for. For example, if I'm teaching something in mathematics of fractions, so it's a very broad concept. If I break it down skill wise and today's objective and outcome, this is the assessment for today, the IP independent part. Then my lesson will focus only that part, how I'm going to reach there, because then I'll also break it down because the GP will be aligned to that, the teach will be aligned to that, and the uh, prior
Correct.
knowledge, what is the check, like what
Yes.
I'm checking before I'm teaching that concept. So alignment
Thank you.
uh, is
Yeah, thank you so much. Like Rumana rightly said, when we take a concept, let's say for like fractions, there are so many things we want to tell our children, right? And I'm not saying we shouldn't be telling those things, but today, if our objective is to teach comparison of fractions, right, which is greater, which is smaller, I need to finish that first before I give them any additional information, right? And to ensure that I do that and I don't go off track and talk about, fractions that I applied in a gold shop or something like that, I need to first construct the assessment and then my brain will automatically think, okay, how can my children answer these questions? Let me think about that first. And I'll construct a lesson aligned to that assessment only. I will not ask them anything extra. And then when I construct my lesson, you'll notice that it is aligned completely, right? So the independent practice, we call it IP, you can call it assessment. This is a way for the teacher to know if the students have actually understood the topic. The assessment is not for the children, it's for the teachers. It is for the teachers to actually see, I taught them something. I'm not sure how I did. Let me look at my assessment papers and quickly check. All right. So the assessment is a way for the teacher to know if their students have actually understood the topic or were they just like nodding their head and not really understanding. And there are two major criteria that need to be satisfied when you construct an assessment. One is the assessment needs to be aligned to the objective. Okay. If my objective is my children can subtract, students will be able to subtract two numbers without borrowing or regrouping. Regrouping is another term that we use for borrowing. Students will be able to subtract two numbers without regrouping. My assessment cannot have borrowing questions, right? And if I'm saying they'll be able to solve simple sums, then the assessment needs to have simple sums only. It cannot have complex ones like word problems and all of that, right? So that is what I mean when I say your assessment needs to be aligned to your objective, like absolutely aligned. And then your assessments need to be sequenced from easy to hard. Okay. The easiest question needs to be at the top. Now, this easy question can also be a prereq, right? If the objective is, say, students will understand, will be able to solve subtraction with borrowing, your first one or two questions need to have sums that do not involve borrowing. And only after that you go into borrowing. Okay. And why am I saying we should do this? And then maybe into word problems and all of that. And why am I saying this is important? Why is it important that our questions are sequenced from easy to hard? Basically, we're scaffolding them. Why is it important that our assessments be scaffolded? Inika, in case someone's answering in the chat box.
Yes. So the students adapt well with the concepts to cater to all students, not going out of the connect of the lesson plan to build confidence and context.
Confidence and context, yes. So confidence is, I think as a child, I required a lot of confidence to attempt any test, right? So the first thing that I see when I look at a test paper, if the first question in that paper is something that I don't know, I tend to reach a blank out, right? I tend to lose confidence in the rest of the paper also. Whereas if I'm able to answer one or two questions in that, it automatically builds a sense of confidence in me, helps me think, hey, I got two right, just three more to go. And that's a very, very important feeling for a child to feel. Again, the age does not matter. It can be a 3-year-old child or a 25-year-old college or a graduate, whatever, postgraduate. I feel like it's a very, very important feeling to have, the feeling of confidence. I can do this. As an adult, even I feel that way. If I am attending a session and there are questions in the beginning of a session, if the first 1 or 2 questions are easy, I can feel my whole body relaxing. Oh, this is not as bad as I thought it would be, right? Which is why it's very important that the assessments be sequenced from easy to hard, right? So let's take a simple, the first objective that we looked at. Students will be able to ride a bicycle. You're going to teach the children the skill of riding a bicycle. I'm going to show you 2 sample test papers. This is one. It has these 2 questions. Make the child ride a bicycle in front of you. Make the child ride a bicycle to a nearby store to pick up something. Which of this will be able to tell you if the child is able to ride a bicycle? Sample 2. Ask the child to explain the function of each part of a bicycle. Ask the child to tear apart the bicycle and fix it back. Okay? We'll do a quick poll to just make sure that you've understood this concept. Which one is aligned to the objective and is sequenced from easy to hard? Yeah.
There are people there who've responded to the poll as well as in the chat.
Okay.
Over 75 are saying the sample 1.
Thank you so much, Inika. Okay. So anybody who said sample 2, do you want to come off mute and tell me why you thought sample 2 was a better test of the objective?
The child is experiencing all of the things by removing the parts and learning each and every part of the life cycle, cycling, and then he would be able to repair it also, and then he himself would like to give a try. That actually creates a curiosity in him to ride it.
Great. All right. So, but then here, no, Asra, the objective is the child needs to be able to ride a cycle.
Yes.
So, would you ask the child to ride a cycle? If your objective was, needs to be able to repair a cycle or, know how to put
It's
parts of
actually
the
a part.
cycle.
It will become a part of it in that way.
Not necessarily, no, because I know how to ride a cycle. But if you ask me to tear apart a bicycle and fix it, I wouldn't know because nobody taught me.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? So here's the thing. Sample 1 is obviously the more aligned objective, and it's also easy to hard because initially the first thing you're asking them to do is write it in front of me and show me. And then you're saying, okay, great. You're all set. You can go, go to a nearby store, pick up something and come. Right? Yeah. Rumana?
Yes, sample 1 is aligned to the objective because we are teaching them how to ride a bicycle. If the objective would be explain the functions of bicycle, parts of the bicycles, then we would go for part 2 because there we don't need to teach them how to ride. We just teach them how the functions and how to the second one.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So it's okay. We'll do one more poll. Okay. Let's look at. Again. So basically, the criteria for an assessment to be effective is it has to be aligned to the objective and it has to go from easy to hard. Okay. I'm going to give you 2 more samples for this objective. Students will be able to add numbers without regrouping. I'm repeating, regrouping means carryover. Okay. Without regrouping, no carryover. They just need to be able to add numbers. All right. So I'm going to give you one sample and another sample. We're going to look at it. We'll open a poll and put down which one you think follows the criteria for an effective assessment.
Similar, Vidya, like poll is again saying sample
Yeah.
1 and the chat as well.
Okay. Again, those who decided sample 2, I'm just going to quickly explain why it's not sample 2 and it is sample 1. If you look at sample 1, there are simple numbers. Find the answer for the following: 5 plus 4. And then there's 20 plus 49, which is also a very simple addition sum. And then we take it to the next stage where we are saying find the sum of 90, 16, and 70. Again, there's no regrouping slash carryover over here, but you still need to add without the addition symbol, right? We are not giving them the addition symbol. We're just saying find the sum of 90, 16, and 70. Okay. And the third one is a word problem. Alice has 15 apples. She buys 20 more at the store. How many apples does she have in total? And they just need to perform a 15 plus 20 operation. Okay. Now, if you look at sample 2, you're planning a party and expect 45 guests. You already have 28 chairs set up. How many more chairs do you need? The child will need to subtract 45 minus 28. Right? So that's not aligned to our objective, which is being able to add numbers without carryover. So this sample 2 does not exactly align to the objective. So criteria number 1 is not fulfilled over here. As in terms of scaffolding, this starts off with a word problem and a complex one. Imagine this is a second grader's paper. This starts off with a complex problem. So it's not exactly sequenced from easy to hard. Okay, that's the reason why sample 1 is a much effective assessment. Anybody who feels like this was not clear or I don't agree with you, feel free to share it.
We're getting thumbs ups, Vidya, basically.
Okay, all right then. Great. So now what we're going to do is look at the questions that we need to ask ourselves before we create an assessment. Okay. Now, in what ways will the students attempt to demonstrate independent mastery of the objective? Now, the most straightforward way is going to be a pen and paper assessment. You give them sums, very similar to the worksheet that I showed you on the previous slide. But then the idea is you want them to demonstrate that independent mastery. And how will you provide opportunities for extension beyond class? So, did I teach my child subtraction really well? How am I going to make sure that the child knows how to apply subtraction in real life? So, what are you going to tell the child? Are you going to say, look at your fridge today, look at the number of tomatoes that you have? How many tomatoes are rotten? And if you remove them, what do you have remaining? That's subtraction, right? This is an extension beyond a classroom. Or can you say, I've learned subtraction and I know how to subtract numbers. So can I buy the grocery today? Sorry. Can I buy grocery for the house today? Right? So then the parent gives them a 500 rupee note or a 100 rupee note, makes them buy something for 76 rupees and checks if they, get the exact change back. So that's you providing opportunities for extension beyond just the classroom and the worksheets, right? So some ideas to, create an IP. It can be something as simple as an exit slip. Before you go out of class, here are 4 sums. I taught you this concept today. I just want to check if you've understood it completely. So finish this, write your name, give it to me and go. So that's a simple exit slip, process. The other one is an independent task to complete, one that I mentioned right now. Can they go to a shop, buy something, come back and then say, yesterday, you know what, I bought this. I added it and I knew exactly what the total was and I was able to pay the shopkeeper this. So an independent task to complete. Or if you're teaching them shapes, spherical objects will roll, whereas, rectangular or objects with flat surfaces will slide. asking them to perform an experiment, maybe make a video or something of that, and ask them to notice how, I put a ball over here and it rolls down the slide. Whereas if I push a book down the slide, it'll go sliding like this. So these are tasks that you can give them to complete. And one more type of assessment is just an oral task with your peer to evaluate you. Make the children sit in pairs and say, these are 3 questions you and your partner need to be able to answer, and get them to quiz each other. So yeah, these are some ideas that you can use for assessment. So what we'll do right now is we have 5 minutes. So can we create an assessment that is perfectly aligned to the objective and the opening that we created? Yeah, let's take 5 minutes.
Vidya, there are some questions about exit slips, if that can just be reiterated, like what are exit slips?
So exit slips are basically, it's like a slip to exit the classroom, right? So basically you're saying, I taught you something. Can you please show me if you have mastered what I taught you right now? And then you go out. You want to go for your break, you want to drink some water, you want to use the restroom, whatever, right? So an exit slip typically is not a worksheet. It's a very short assessment. It will have not more than 5 questions, 4 or 5 questions at the maximum, right? But it needs to satisfy the criteria mentioned over here. So the questions need to be aligned to the objective. They need to be sequenced from easy to hard. Even if you're giving them exactly 1 question, aligned to your objective, that's perfectly fine. An exit slip can have anywhere between 1 to 5 questions, not more than that. Typically, the time that you will spend for an assessment at the end of a 40-45 minute lesson is about 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. So the child needs to be able to complete that slip in 5 minutes, including calculation and everything. For that, if it means you'll give them only 2 sums or 4 sums, whatever that is. Does that clarify?
Yeah, we're getting thumbs ups. Vidya.
Okay. We come back at 6:58. It's 6:55 right now. Let's come back at 6:58.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Yeah.
Who's this?
For the science fair, which told you, I am still not like well versed with the opening part. What I can do for the opening?
Okay, what is your objective?
Students will be able to perform uh, and explain the experiment in English.
Oh, you're talking about the science. This is the science fair
Ah,
person.
yeah.
Okay. Can you wait after the call maybe? I
Sure,
could
sure,
help
sure,
you.
ma'am. So,
Yeah.
sure.
All right, at 6:58, give me a thumbs up if you managed to create an assessment that is aligned to your objective and sequenced from easy to hard. And can you give it as a reaction over here? If you put it in a chat box, I'm unfortunately not able to see it.
Yeah, Vidya, we do have quite a few thumbs ups coming, reactions,
Okay.
and the chat as well.
Okay, great. All right then. Okay, so today we looked at how to create an objective, how to create an effective opening, and how to create an assessment. Tomorrow we will look at introduction to new material, creating a guided practice, and doing a fun, effective homework project, something that does not involve paper and pen. So that's what we will look at tomorrow. All right. With that, thank you so much. I had a great time. I hope you're taking back things that you can implement in your classroom. Thank you. I will hang around in case there's anyone who wants to clarify doubts.
Can I?
Yes.
Yeah, the science fair one, or should I wait?
No, that's fine. So does anyone else have any doubts?
I'll just
Ma'am,
quickly,
good.
maybe there are some questions. Sorry, there are
Sure.
questions coming up about tomorrow, Vidya. I'll just take that up quickly. Firstly,
Uh,
thank you so
rest,
much, everyone, for being
sorry,
so
rest can
engaging.
leave, right? Sorry
Yes,
to
I'm just
interrupt.
covering that. So if you could just give me a minute, I'm just covering that. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Ma'am, good evening,
Um,
ma'am.
I'll just
Hello.
quickly close out. If everyone could just hold on for a minute, we will take up the questions later. Yeah, thank you so much, Vidya, and thank you so much, everyone. I think the session was really engaging. Vidya, thank you for taking up every part of it so intentionally and also just being there for whatever question came up at whichever point. I think personally, this was such a good refresher for me. I'm working out with so much clarity again in what
Ma'am,
like
good evening, ma'am.
the importance this holds. So thank you so much for that. Everyone else, our second day, which is the final day of our workshop, will be tomorrow. So
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
you can join the session tomorrow. Post that, you will receive the feedback form and the certificate. So do ensure that you're joining tomorrow. You will receive the link on your WhatsApp messages as well as the calendar invites that have been shared with you. So you will be able to join similar to today by 5:25 p.m. I'll also share everything again in the chat box. I'll now hand over to Vidya, who was taking a previously asked question. So we will first go ahead with that, and then any other questions that are there, please stay in the meeting. We'll take that up after
Hello,
this.
madam. Hello.
Sir, we'll take up your question once the previous question has been addressed already. There's one question. After that, we will ask you to share. You can also share in the chat box.
Ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Sir, we'll take your question once the previously asked question has already been covered. We will get to your question in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Vidya, I think you can go ahead.